championship weekend for the NFL. 4 teams remaining, all competing for the Lombardi Trophy. I'm Coy Camiscioli, Philly Sports Talk here. Going to give my predictions and preview these 2 games for you guys for today. Nothing too crazy. Going to be a quick little pod just by myself here. Going to give my thoughts. And yeah, I'll get right into it. So entering the postseason, me and one other guy did a playoff predictions podcast, a whole bracket prediction. And I nailed the AFC. I was completely correct in the AFC. Every single matchup, I had the Patriots and Broncos, and I had the Broncos going to the Super Bowl. Obviously, before the Bo Nix injury, and maybe I still have them. I don't know. We'll get into that in a few. So I had that. The NFC was a little wonky for me because again, I had the Eagles. Obviously, Philly Sports Talk page. I also had the Packers pulling out the upset round 1. So the NFC was a little wonky for me, but still, these are 2 really good matchups. Patriots and Broncos. Obviously now it's Jarrett Stidham with the Broncos and Drake May of the Patriots, and the Rams were Seahawks in Seattle. So I'll talk about the Patriots and Broncos first, and I'll tell you guys who I also want to see. You know, I have nothing against the Patriots. I like them. I think they're a good team. I think Drake May is a good quarterback. The whole schedule argument has gotten a little blown out of proportion. You know, once it comes time for the playoffs, I don't give a crap how or who they have to go through to win a championship. I don't care if they had to beat 3 teams that the whole media considers terrible. If they end up winning the championship, I don't care if every team they play has their quarterback get hurt. They won the championship. They were durable enough to get there. That's all that matters to me. So if I urge you, if you're listening to this podcast, that if you're one of those people, I'd switch the mindset. They're in the AFC Championship now. All that schedule stuff goes out the way. Regular season, I think it's fine to talk about. I do. I was clowning them. They had less wins against teams over 500 than the Giants in the regular season. I brought that stat out a good amount. But now it doesn't matter. AFC Championship time. So it is in Denver. Obviously, the Broncos are down to Jarrett Stidham. Very unfortunate. I think if the Broncos had Bo Nix, I'm easily picking the Broncos. Although I think it would be a good game regardless. But I just feel confident in Bo Nix with this Broncos team. Now, I'm obviously going to lean towards the Patriots. I do still think this could be a close game. I really do. You know, the Patriots, for me, I do have some doubts on them. I think Drake May is great. He definitely has a problem holding on to the football. You know, not so much throwing interceptions, more just so holding on to it. Now, I'm going to give him some slack because that Houston Texans defense he faced last week is an elite defense, one of the best defenses of the past decade. So, I am going to cut him some slack, but it's an issue he has had, and this Broncos defense is no different. It's another very good defense. So, they can definitely get to Drake May. They can wreak some havoc. They're going to need to make some plays, obviously. Jarrett Stidham hasn't thrown a pass since 2023. He didn't throw a pass this year in the NFL. So, that's obviously not a good thing for the Broncos. You know, you saw a lot of people trying to say that they should try to look into bringing in another quarterback, you know, an older veteran. You know, guys, you obviously float around the name Tom Brady, even if that was logistically possible. But at this point, you're in the AFC Championship. You got to use the QB that knows the system, has been here all year. So that covers up any doubt that some people had as to why the Broncos chose to play Jarrett Stidham. That's why. But I really do think the Broncos could still pull this off, and I'm honestly kind of pushing for them. Again, I have nothing against the Patriots, but I've already seen so many Super Bowls that the Patriots have been in that I kind of want to see something different. You know, obviously we've seen the Broncos for one. I'm 21 years old, and I started watching football like 2013, 2012. So I've seen the Broncos in a couple, actually, but I'd like to see them get back there. The Jarrett Stidham story is kind of cool. It would be really nice to see him ball out. You know, coming from an Eagles fan, obviously Nick Foles, one of the greatest NFL stories of all time, if not the greatest, beating the greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady, in the Super Bowl. And now here it is, the Patriots going up against another backup QB in a championship caliber football game. So, with that being said, I am going to roll with the Patriots. The Patriots also have a good defense, and I think that they'll find a way to, you know, make Jarrett Stidham make at least 1 or 2 mistakes they're going to cost in this game. I do still think this game's going to be close. I'm going to roll with Patriots 27-21. They pull this one out. So I had the Patriots going to the Super Bowl, And then on the NFC side, the NFC Championship, Rams vs. Seahawks in Seattle. This is going to be a great one. Last time we saw these two teams in Seattle was an instant classic on that Thursday night game, if you guys remember. The Rams had that game won. They were up multiple scores, and they just sold it within like the last 8 or 9 minutes of the fourth quarter when Seattle fans were already heading for the exits. So, realistically, I think the Rams are a better football team. I like how they match up against Seattle. It is in Seattle. Seattle looked great last week against the Niners. Seattle also had the bye week. All those things matter, absolutely. But when it's all said and done with me, it comes down to, do you trust Sam Darnold or Matthew Stafford more? And I know some people might say that the Seahawks might not even need Sam Darnold to do that much. Look what they did against the Niners last week. The Niners are not good. Neither were the Eagles, so that's not a salty Eagles fan talking. The Niners have way too many holes, mainly because of the injuries, and again, the Eagles were not good. So you can say I'm salty. I'm not. The Eagles were not good. I just admitted that. So I think the Seahawks, this game's going to be close. I don't see this game being a blowout either way, for either side, as opposed to the AFC Championship game, which I could see it. I think this game is going to come down to the final drive, truthfully. And I think it's going to be in the hands of Matthew Stafford, and I think they're going to kick a game-winning field goal as either with time expiring or with like 15 seconds left to send them to the Super Bowl. Again, I just think they match up better. The one knock on Sam Darnold is that he will throw interceptions, and you force him to make mistakes. Sorry, a little blunder there. He's had a great year, over 4,000 yards, 25 plus touchdowns. That's a really good season for an NFL quarterback. But I think NFC Championship against the Rams, a couple of really good coaches going at it. I think the Rams have a couple more weapons up their sleeve. I think they move on to the Super Bowl. As I'm talking about it, I kind of want to pick the Seahawks because I feel like Sean McVay is going to sell this game. But I'm going to still roll with the Rams. I think Matthew Stafford is going to pull this one out for the Rams, and they go to the Super Bowl. I had to take a cut there because I started to change my mind a little bit, because to me, Sean McVay, I feel like he might find a way to lose this game, trying to game manage late. I really do feel it, but at the same time, I trust him a little bit more than I trust Sam Darnold, so I'm going to stick with the Rams. I'm predicting a Rams-Patriots Super Bowl, which is obviously a rematch of that 13-3 terrible game we saw back in 2018 or 2019. And yeah, that's what I got. Patriots-Rams Super Bowl. I'll go with the Rams, win this one 34-31. I think it's going to be high scoring, and again, I think it comes off the game-winning field goal. All right, guys, that's going to do it. I'll have a preview out for the Super Bowl, and I'll also recap these games a little bit, and we'll go from there. See ya.